Katie. Katie.
Oh my god, you teleported me? What the fuck?
Hello and welcome to another special episode of Superhero Club, your go-to show for all things comic book inspired on Amazon Prime Video. I'm your host, Stephanie Williams. Before we get too far in, if you want more superhero content like this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Today, we are highlighting the boys' character, Huey, the man who embarked on a journey of revenge in Compound V. First, we'll dive into his comic history and then get into the Huey we've gotten to know in the last 3 seasons of the Amazon Prime Video TV series adaptation of The Boys. So Huey, full name Hughie Campbell, made his comic debut in The Boys #1. Before I get into his iconic but extremely traumatic first appearance, let's cover Huey's childhood. Huey had a bit of a weird childhood, but honestly, what isn't odd in this universe? He was an adopted child who grew up in rural Scotland. Before Huey held the detached arms of his girlfriend at the fair when he was a child, he encountered the giant tapeworm his aunt had left in the toilet after expelling it. Totally normal stuff. He got his knack for conspiracy theories from his adoptive parents. Little did he know he'd have to put those skills to use after what happened to his girlfriend. When Huey was younger, he also did some meddling on his own. Once he and some childhood friends discovered a cigarette smuggling ring working out of one of the local pubs. Although later in life he would say his childhood detective antics were embarrassing, they did help him hone the skills that he would later put to use while working with the boys and what made him a worthy asset to Billy the Butcher. Like on the show, Huey's first experience with superhumans happens firsthand, pun intended. When his girlfriend Robin is accidentally killed by A-Train slams another superhuman traveling faster than the speed of sound into Robin, which leaves Huey holding her arms and the rest of Robin smashed into a brick wall. The traumatic event makes Butcher recruit Huey to take Mallory's vacated spot on the boys team. Huey's time with the boys and Butcher is full of growing pains due to his inexperience. He accidentally kills Blarney Cock, the son of the legend and Queen Maeve. In the show, something similar happens, but with another superhero. Like his character in the TV series adaptation, Huey is at first entirely on board with how Butcher handles things. In the comics, he becomes increasingly disgusted, though, with the way Butcher tortures their enemies and his lack of care about his actions. Huey's unease doesn't go away as the comic series continues. Instead, it eventually turns to full-out anger with Butcher's violence. Huey was put in danger on a few occasions with the boys. Butcher has him infiltrate the G-Men mansion as a potential new student, and it nearly cost him his life. Specifically, Huey's relationship with Butcher causes him just as much physical harm as it does mental harm. Butcher doesn't shy away from using manipulation tactics to get Huey to do what he wants him to, including violently hurting others, something Huey doesn't want to do. When he was a child, there was an incident that involved a dog that ended up getting hurt, and Huey felt really bad for that dog and took him home and tried to take care of that dog. So like, Huey has shown moments of compassion very early on, something that Butcher cannot say. Also, Butcher injects Huey with Compound V without his consent, which results in Huey obtaining powers and strength and durability. So I guess in that way, he might have did him a favor because Butcher was already putting him in harm's way, or Huey's putting himself in harm's way. So at least he had that to protect him. During the Over the Hill with Swords of 1,000 Men story, Butcher plays a recorded conversation between the 7 about how they planned on hiring Annie so that they could degrade her. This makes Huey snap and results in him kicking A-Train's head off his body, because originally Huey wasn't going to do it. He was being very reluctant, and Butcher, knowing how to push his buttons, went ahead and played that for him and got him to do what he wanted him to do. Huey may have allowed Butcher to pull his strings for most of the comic series, but Huey is the one who ultimately ends up taking Butcher out finally in the end. As covered in the Starlight deep dive video, Huey and Starlight meet similarly to how they do on the show. They meet randomly in a park after both experiencing terrible days at their respective jobs. They get to know each other reasonably well in the bedroom and a little outside of it. But that all comes crashing down when Starlight finally reveals she's a superhero and part of the 7. Huey is upset and breaks things off, but he may have been quicker to reconcile or try to understand Starlight if Butcher hadn't played into Huey's insecurities by showing him the video footage of what happened to her on her first day at Vought at 7 headquarters. He only showed him the partial video, but also Huey is a grown-up and he really probably should have listened to Starlight when she tried to explain to him what actually happened to her that day. And it's funny because Huey is usually compassionate, and I guess in that instance his feelings were hurt, so he just couldn't tap into that. But it is Huey's compassion for others that would eventually win out once the dust settled and he could remove Butcher from his life, a path we're seeing take shape right now in the TV series, which is a great segue into that. Let's get to talking about the Huey we've gotten to know over the last 3 seasons of the Amazon Prime TV series adaptation of The Boys. The Huey of The Boys adaptation isn't so different from the one we've gotten to know in the comics. There are some similarities that go beyond some of the key events. So Huey's introduction in the Boys TV series was just as traumatic as his first appearance in the comics. A-Train accidentally kills Robin while high on Compound V. When A-Train isn't punished for the murder, that is what ends up sending Huey on his quest for revenge. Huey gets a first taste of killing Soups, this time when he detonates the bomb Frenchie placed in Translucent's rectum. There's no delicate way I could have put that. Anyway, even though Huey killed Translucent with a little more conviction than his comic iteration did with Barney Cock, it's clear that Huey is still not entirely unfazed by taking someone else's life, superhero or not. As the seasons go on, that point is made repeatedly that Huey is not Butcher. No matter how hard he tries to be in the beginning when he first joins the boys, Huey's natural kindness eventually wins out over his rage and his thirst for revenge. That's evident throughout the relationship he develops with Starlight and his attempt at fighting Vought the right way, as he thought, by working with Victoria Newman. But before we get into that, let's focus a little more on Huey and Butcher's relationship in the show. In the TV series, there's more nuance permitted to both characters, helping with the context of their complicated relationship. They are two broken people who have found a likeness in one another, but the difference in how far to go with their desires for revenge ultimately separates the two. By the end of season 1, when it dawns on Huey how deep he is in everything thanks to teaming up with Butcher and the rest of the boys, he feels a little betrayed and taken advantage of by Butcher. But those feelings aren't strong enough for him to leave the team or leave Butcher alone for that matter. But as Mother's Milk tried to warn him, this was a grown folks business and Huey needs to grow up and embrace his actions as his own. Huey's relationship with the other members of the boys team are what really keep him from getting completely swept up in all things Butcher and trying to appease him by doing things the way Butcher would want them done. To Butcher's credit, this iteration of him in the TV series is also not as cold-blooded, and even he tries in his own way to stop Huey from following in his footsteps. After all, Butcher doesn't inject him with V24 in the show as he does in the comics. The exact opposite happens, and Huey is the one to sneak a dose himself. Huey's relationship with Starlight also helps create some separation for Huey and makes space for him to figure out where he truly stands. In the comics, Huey allows Butcher to break them up, but in the TV show, although they at first in their relationship, they end up back together with Starlight working with the boys by season 2. Huey is there for Starlight in a way he wasn't in the comic iteration. The TV series Huey, while still boneheaded at times, does have moments when his kindness and compassionate side appears. He genuinely wants to protect Starlight even though she has the powers and could do a better job at keeping them both safe than he ever could. The season 3 finale is a memorable example of Huey's growth and understanding that Starlight can take care of herself and that he can best support her by giving her the space to do so. By the end of season 3, Huey's transformation into the kind of man he wants to be becomes increasingly clear, and we have season 4 of The Boys to look forward to that. And that concludes this deep dive character session of Superhero Club. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm your host, Stephanie Williams. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more episodes of Superhero Club. Remember, you can check out all 3 seasons of The Boys on Amazon Prime Video.